Squirrel Nation, happy Veterans Day to those vets out there in the audience. Today, at the request of a community member, I am going to review Thailand's RPL Season 2 Grand Finals that happened about a month ago. I am going to look at Game 6 is what we're going to watch today. Anyways, let's dive in. So pick bans are interesting. Blue team, to me, has the interesting bans here is they end up banning 3 characters that I consider to be high soak. They soak a lot of damage, high CC, and nice health pools. That communicates to me that blue team is looking to form a poke composition because they want the enemies to have lower health pool heroes so that they can poke away at them. So we'll see how that rounds out. As we go here, Lindis is cool, good pick. Lindis is definitely one of the top tier junglers. She's very strong early and mid game. She does fall off late, but she falls off very late game, like once everybody has 6 items, and she can just be a beast in between that, so totally worthwhile. It is interesting because blue focused their bans on these tanks, high CC, high soak tanks. The enemies do get Cricknack and Ignis, which is interesting to me because coming from NA, those are considered extremely overpowered heroes and are banned all the time. So Roxy, I love it, into Annette for the Cricknack. I think they're saying, okay, fine, if you want this Cricknack, we're going to be able to CC you and we're going to zone you away from our squishies. I like it. Another reason I love Annette in a poke comp is that she can just make so much space and save. So the enemies then do opt to go for Zenial and Omen. That does make sense as the 2 side laners. They are good side laners, but if you notice, they are also less health, less soak than the ones that were banned. Zenial has good soak, obviously, because of his shield, but if his shield gets popped, then he has no damage. So Zenial is definitely better as a follow-up than he is as a main tank soak damage dealer. So I'm going to pause here now that the comps are done, and we're going to talk about them a little bit. So blue team does go into a poke composition like I would expect. They have the Kali, who is outstanding poke damage from range, scales very well into late game, becomes a beast. Val, same thing, scales very well into late game, becomes a beast. So I like their composition from a balance. So let's talk about balance first. They have a hero to carry them early and mid in Lindis. They have heroes to carry them late in Kali and Val. And the other 2 heroes are great support. Roxy is not going to lose lane to Zenial or Omen. She will hold her own in those solo lanes. Same thing with Val. He has range on both Omen and Zenial. So I think the side lanes are probably going to go to blue. What I worry about is red has taken multiple assassins, so they now have Cricknack, they now have Max. Max can jump on the squishies very easily. Lindis and Val, and Kali, even though they are fast heroes and they have speed buffs, they do not have dashes. So Max can use his S2 to flip over them and stay on them if they're just running away, and he can use that twice. So Max is going to be able to stick on these squishies very easily. Cricknack obviously has his speed boost to get to them, but their ability to run away will help them deal with a Cricknack. This brings me to my point of, I think, the greatest pick and the thing that's going to matter most in this game is this Annette pick. The Annette is, to me, totally counters Max, which is why I'm not sure why Max got selected after Annette and Roxy were already on the table. The reason for that is Max has a very predictable ult. It telegraphs, hey, I'm coming, this is where I'm coming, which means Roxy can easily land her ultimate on him, which is an extremely long CC and almost guarantees Max is dead. Annette can simply stand on top of her, or can ult on top of her 80 carries and just push all enemies back away from him. So that's going to mitigate Cricknack, Omen, and Max's damage. So the only damage that that red can do to the blue team when Annette ultimates is Omen. It's very weird to me that the red team allowed that to happen because they had 3 picks after Annette came on the board. Maybe they're just not comfortable with range. I'm not really sure why they didn't do that. They didn't take more range damage because Annette's going to be a major issue for them. Another thing to note about Ignis is he's very OP, but to me, I think what blue team's saying is, you know what, we're going to take highly mobile, very fast champions who we can dodge skill shots, and if Ignis is never hitting us, then he's going to not be as useful. Another thing is by they don't have a meat shield. They don't have somebody that's like super soaked. Like Roxy can definitely dive in there, but Roxy's not the type of tank who's just like sitting in a certain spot, type of minimal movement. You know, Roxy's all over the place, moving here and there. She's just spreading her fire out. So Ignis doesn't have that bulky front line to just hit his S1 on and then have it spread on to the rest of the team. So Ignis I could see him having trouble getting his combos against this team. And on the movement speed note, what I mean by that is if you notice, every single one of the blue team heroes has a speed buff mechanic, right? So Lindis has her passive, Roxy has her shield, Kali has her shield, Valheim has that stacking effect, which I also believe is his passive, and Annette just has a lot of disengage. She doesn't have a speed up per se, but she has a lot of disengage with her ultimate and her different abilities, stuns and slows. So anyways, and last note is if you look at red team, I think this is a very NA type of composition. Zenial can ult in on Crickneck, he can ult in on Max, he can ult in on Omen. So to me, the best combo with this is Max gets on the back line, and then Zenial ults in on him, blows him up with her shield, and they can just absolutely melt Lindis, Val, Kali, no problem. The issue with that is, once again, I said, is Annette is going to be a huge problem there because she can simply push them back when that happens. So I think Annette was actually the linchpin to this composition. We will watch how that goes, but to me right now, I do lean towards blue simply because of Annette. If blue didn't have Annette, I would hate their team composition, and I would think that red is just going to destroy them. But the fact that they have a way to... Annette is such a strong counter to assassins, and the fact that the red team has multiple assassins and melee type heroes means that Annette is really, really going to hurt them. Another thing about Annette's ult, remember, is that inside, when she ults on top of these marksmen, they're going to get, and as long as they're sitting inside of her safe barrier, they get enhanced movement speed and enhanced attack speed. So the attack speed, they can just dish out damage even faster than they're already doing it. And then with the movement speed, they can dodge the only range damage source of red, which is Ignis. So anyways, when I watch these games, what I like to do is you can watch for entertainment, or you can watch for practice or improvement type of thing, learning. So I'm going to watch how I would watch, which is for learning. So for me, I generally like to focus on a small set of things so that I'm not missing it. So for me, I'm going to focus on the movement around the map, on Tony. I think supports, because we said that Annette is so vital to this composition. I really want to see what she's doing to help her team, and if she's going to play the way that I would predict she's going to play, or if the RPL is into some totally different meta that I can't even expect. Love that Tony's controlling this bush, right? Sees a Zenial coming, backs out, getting a little bit of poke on the Max and the Ignis, and they're rotating. So if you notice, Tony's just kind of mirroring the enemy team. Dragon's coming up 20 seconds. I would expect everybody to start grouping down there. An interesting thing is Tony is actually staying and watching the enemy jungler, which I find very interesting, because that makes a lot of sense to me. Because what you're saying is, okay, if I have vision on the enemy jungler on the other side of the map, then my team can do Dragon because our jungler is at Dragon. So now if you notice, it's actually 3v3, right? It's Lindis, Roxy, and Kali versus the Omen, Zenial, and Ignis. And they do get basically a free Dragon because of that. So that was a very interesting style to me, is simply, if you have vision on the Dragon as the support, just keep vision on the jungler and let your team have a Dragon that is not contested by Punish. So now they're challenging for Sentinel. It looks like blue team is just going to give it over to them. Another thing in these compositions is I think both teams have late game power, and both teams aren't too weak into the mid. I do give the early and mid to the blue team, and I just really like their composition the more and more I look at it, because it's like early game they have some hero to take care of them in Lindis, and late, if things manage to go super late, they also have things to take care of them. So I really like this, even though this is a comp I don't think we would see in NA, or we definitely wouldn't see. Blue team's composition is very dependent on them avoiding, right, in them having really good positioning. If blue team starts getting caught out in one, like, like 1 or 2 or trickling type of thing, they're going to get destroyed and the game's going to be over before they know it. But if they have good positioning, I can understand why this composition is really good. This is a composition I would personally never trust in ranked. So if I'm solo queuing, I would be crying if my team was of this composition, because you have to dodge the skill shots, you have to have good positioning so you're not getting jumped on by the assassins. But anyways, so Tony hanging out, watching the mid brush. Love it. Control the river. If you notice, Dragon's coming back up again. Something I'm watching for now is he going to go find vision on the jungle? So no, okay, so here's another interesting thing. They're going to come down, rotate down, put damage on Max, it looks like, to bring up an advantage before Dragon. I love it. The wave's coming. Their team gets 4 people down there. Tony's watching the bush to see when the enemy rotates. They chunk down Max quite a bit. He has to back. Sorry. Oh, that's good play. Great timing. Though that is a very crisp timing. Now they're going through their jungle. They're clearing out very fast. Cool. Red's doing the same. Interestingly, the blue side's helping their jungle clear faster, so the whole jungle got cleared, whereas red only got the red buff and the 2 minor camps are dead. Okay, Tony does overextend, gets caught. And yeah, so far, wow, it's, even though red is up 2 kills, including first blood, they're only up 400 gold. But it's about to be a lot more from Dragon. Okay, that makes more sense to me. So, again, it seems like they're always trading Dragon and Sentinel, so if your team's going to lose Dragon, go get Sentinel, and vice versa. So, things should start getting more interesting in these coming team fights. Pushing the tower. So, if you notice, they seem to always, they're overall, both teams are putting a lot of focus on the side lanes and very little on mid. And they're going in groups almost always. So, yeah, and Tony is always taking advanced vision. Like, he is always peeking into the enemy jungle before things. And yeah, they're grouping up again. So it seems like the timing they like is they like to clear mid, rotate to the side lanes right as the wave is crashing into tower, and then push. And if you notice, we talked about the poke comp, and this is why it's working, right? Val is always clearing wave first because Omen can't get close. Like, Val just outranges him, so that means that bottom has a full healthy wave for when the blue team decides to rotate down to the Val's lane, and they have a full healthy wave to push towers, which is cool. And that works good as a poke comp if the assassins don't get on you. So out of Cricknack and out of Max, we haven't even seen an ult yet from Max, which is interesting. I'm not really sure why. If I was Max, I would look for Annette next to me, and then I would go on the opposite squishy. Because to me, that must be what he's trying to do, because I just don't see otherwise how Max plans to get any usefulness out of himself in this game. It is also interesting that we talked about Roxy and Annette can both counter Max's ultimate, so let's see how they position. So right now, both marksmen are with Max. So at this point, I think they're just not scared, because look at that Lindis. She's a level 11 to level 8. They get that tower, no problem. Right now, the poke comp is just working. I mean, yeah, it's working and working very well. So that time, they gave up Dragon for the tower. That does help red again. In this game, as long as they keep it close, like I said, I don't really... These teams are not... They're not the type of compositions where I put a timer on one of the teams based on the hero power. I think this game at all time points in the game is going to come down to skill, team fight, and the win conditions. Who is able to impose their win condition on the other team. So is blue going to be able to poke, or is red going to be able to dive on the squishies? That to me is what the game's going to come down to. It's not going to come down to a certain hero becoming beastly at a certain point in the game. So anyways, yeah, they're staying close, only 400 gold. Darkslayer's coming up. I'm curious to see how quickly they decide to go for a Darkslayer. Once again, if you notice, they're helping blue is always helping clear the jungle before objectives. So they just want to, like, get all the XP, get all the gold, who cares who gets it, and get onto objectives. So that is another interesting point. Tony is starting to roam much more with his jungle and his mid than he was in the beginning of the game. Kali just starting to chip away like you would expect a Kali to do. Lindis, notice, is always using her vision to check the bushes. And teams are just posturing, fighting over. It looks like Roxy is pushing bottom. And to me, it looks like what they want to do is push in the lanes and go for dark. Okay, and they're starting. Let's pause right here so I can kind of explain what I'm saying. So if you notice, bottom is now pushed in because Roxy is pushing that. Val just finished pushing lane here, so now top is pushing in. Mid, you notice the minions are just coming to the tower. So what blue's doing is saying, our Roxy is already rotating over. Somebody on your team is going to have to rotate bottom, so we're going to have a man advantage. Okay? Then also, you have their high damage, right? 2 marksmen and Kali doing the Darkslayer. If you also notice the positioning, Kali and Valheim have set up behind the pit, so if enemies do come, they can easily run away and disengage. Same thing with Lindis. She has bush here into this bush, or she has this bush into these bushes over here. Sorry if you're watching my mouse. And so she can also easily get away. And Annette is just kind of setting up here as a vision ward and kind of zoning enemies back. So I think this is very good positioning, very, very interesting. My guess is if red heavily pushes in, that they'll simply abandon the Darkslayer and run away. And it works. I mean, they get a very early Darkslayer with no man advantage, right? It's 5v5. They simply used map pressure to get that Darkslayer. That was an outstanding Darkslayer take. So highlights, Tony is zoning and keeping vision. Positioning around the Baron pit is very on point so that if the enemies do challenge, they can simply run away. And then timing out the minion waves. Roxy perfectly pushed wave and started rotating to Baron. It's like, these are the timings that you can see are just ingrained in their gameplay. I guarantee that they have that preset. Wow, they're going for Dragon. That is another thing that's very interesting. And if you notice, they did the same thing. They pushed bottom, Roxy rotates in, gets that Dragon objective. I'm very curious if they're going to go back for an Enraged Dragon in 20 seconds. Something I do like out of blue is they are playing poke the way I think you should play poke, which is they're not forcing fights, which gets your squishies caught by the assassins. They're just simply rotating well in a safe way, which Tony is enabling. And here we go. Okay, Max went in for the first time. And see, that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, Annette just jumps in, pushes him back, and now he's too deep, right? Zenial, he should not have ulted in there. That was already too late. And yeah, like, that's what I expect to see a lot more of, is just simply Max getting pushed away when he gets in. And they did try to do that combo, which we talked about, which is Max into Zenial ultimate, right? And to melt the... But, yeah. We'll see. I think what has to happen is Cricknack has to get, like, a pick or something, or they have to get Annette down, and then Max can ult in and go with Zenial. To me, that's what has to happen. But Tony is all about zoning. I mean, I love his support style. His support style is very much the type of support style that I like. Also, let's notice how they use Drake. They put it in a lane, and they're protecting the Drake. So this is very interesting. Kali's great at this because she can just destroy and just poke the whole enemy. So actually, they let the Drake stay there, and they're going to rotate. Bam, one assassin down, Zenial's down. Wow, and see, this is the poke. They're just controlling this area so the melee can't come over this wall, right? If anybody comes over this wall, they're super dead because their team can't really back them up. And the Ignis was stuck bottom, if you remember, because he was clearing Drake. So, I love the pressure that blue is putting on. I mean, this is how you should play a poke composition to me. They have... A poke composition can make pressure around the map. It can force the enemies into positions that make it easy to poke, like put damage onto them. So same thing, Roxy zoning, the Val positioning is interesting to me. And okay, they are going to back up, which I agree with. And notice they back up, they're just going to super clear this wave. We did talk about they don't have those bruiser champions on blue, but that also does mean that their DPS is significantly higher than a team that does have the bruisers. So they're just melting through things. I mean, look at they're just taking objectives like nobody's business. But I will say, as ahead as blue seems and how dominant they seem, it can easily turn if the Cricknack or the Max, or honestly just if blue starts to misposition or anything, red can easily be back in this game. Because Blue has a highly skilled composition. Like they have to be watching the map, high map awareness, knowing how to rotate. Because another thing about this Blue's type of composition, if they don't keep track of the enemies and they rotate through a bush where an ambush is set up, they're done. They're super dead. And wow, okay, so Roxy obviously tanking, and bam, man, that Annette disengage is just crushing Red. It's like every time Red thinks they're getting something, the Annette's just coming in there and pushing him back and saying nope. But anyways, yeah, so let's see if Red can catch any of the squishies. Val taking a lot of damage there for not much purpose, I would say. But anyways, they get another tower out of it. Same thing, pressure. Wow, Red's down to 2 high ground. And actually, they have not even taken 1 tower at this point. This is the problem if you run an assassin comp, so no marksman, right? Generally, teams that have an assassin don't have marksman. That's kind of how it goes. And yeah, this is the problem with such little range. We discussed in the beginning of the game also, right? Red really has no range damage outside of Ignis, and Ignis is being a non-factor. I will say, Blue is making it very minimal, and there we go. There's a counter we talked about, right? Is Omen ults, and Annette just simply ults on top of Omen's target, and then he's pushed back and he's eating damage this whole time, buffed damage. So now, okay, Max he knows Annette's cooldown is down, so he jumps on Lindis. Okay, that was a good idea. I would have liked to see it before your team was super far behind, but, you know, the idea was there. And I think it is those type of plays, if this game lasts, and it very well could end right here. Notice 3 top pushing, 2 bottom pushing. Oh, they kind of do get caught. They should get bot tower, I would assume, out of this. And just Kali, do you see that poke she's doing on Omen? Omen's almost dead from that. And Tony, yeah, he's going to go down. I wouldn't chase Cricknack. You're not catching Cricknack unless he does something stupid. Oh, unfortunately, they did not get that bottom tower. I don't know why. I mean, I would have just stayed there and gotten one last hit on it. But honestly, they probably saw something that I didn't. So, anyways, they are starting, you know, this is how you could want it to go. I want to see if Red can get a few more picks. If Red can start getting picks, things are going to go very good for them right away. Okay, Kali watching this. Val, wow, that position, okay. That was definitely a misplay by Val. That was overextension for sure. I'm guessing he didn't see Ignis. He just saw the Cricknack and he wanted to delay him, but okay, so see, what's happening right now is what we're talking about, where things can start really taking a bad turn for Blue, is bad positioning. And if you notice, Val got bad positioning, got instantly melted, right? And then Roxy trickled in, Roxy gone. So this is where things can get really dicey for the Blue team. And are they Kali be able to steal? Nope. They do secure it, as they should with Punish. So Red's going to be pushing. Lindis did, which I agree with, is Lindis knew that nothing's happening Darkslayer. We're not going to force that fight there, so I'm going to come create map pressure. I really enjoy the map pressure that they create overall. Tony is not with anybody for the first time, but I think that's because the priorities have shifted a bit. Blue's movements are starting to be more risky, to be honest. I think Red could capitalize on it if Blue keeps playing. Blue is definitely getting sloppier, I'll say that. They're moving through their jungle without vision, because Lindis was bottom. Lindis is the one who's been going around checking all these bushes. Actually, yeah, let me make this a big point in this video, is vision. The other thing that enabled Blue to be so dominant and create so much map pressure is the fact that they can path through the river, they can path through their jungle in safety. They know they're safe. And the reason they know they're safe is because Lindis is checking bushes like crazy with her vision, and Tony on Annette has been going through the bushes like crazy and checking vision, and Tony is always taking really advanced positions so that he sees multiple enemies in where they are. Those are the things that let you do what Roxy's doing right now, just run through bushes, right? If your team has poor map awareness and they don't know where enemies are, you cannot just run blindly through the jungle. Like, watch Val right now down here on the minimap. He just runs through the jungle. You can't do that if you don't have vision on the enemy, because there could easily be a Cricknack sitting in a bush waiting to kill you. And those are actually the things... I want to say I would like to see that out of Cricknack, is him setting up ambushes, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure it's not going to work because blue team has been doing so good about clearing bushes, checking bushes, keeping vision on the enemy team. So I think for red to get back in this, though, they need to figure out a way to start taking back, start making the map scarier, start finding ways to get ambushes. And once again, we saw, okay, Omen ults Val, Annette ults in, makes space, Val's just doing tons of damage. Again, here we go. Max jumps in, doesn't get a kill. They do try that Max Zenial combo, which is definitely what they wanted. And yeah, I mean, that is the way it goes. And that is going to be the game. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. Please let me know if you did in the comments below, and I can do more in the future. I've had a lot of requests lately if people want me to review some of the pro play, and so if you want me to review anything, just simply go to the Discord, submit the footage, and I'll be happy to review it and give you my thoughts on it. If you have certain things you'd like me to talk about, or a way you'd like me to approach it differently when I review these pro gameplay, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, I hope you guys have an amazing day. I'll see you tomorrow, and take care, and happy ranking.